Hey guys, so my name is Danny, and today we're gonna talk a little bit about how to get into tech, how to get a good internship, and know a little bit more about the people in it. So my name is Danny. I've done a lot of stuff in PM. I did worked for a few startups. Did a PM internship in the Bay Area at this company called Waimea Labs. Did a product design internship at NVIDIA, and then also now I'm going to, in a few months I'll be going to EA to PM for their MBA Live team. Want to introduce it?
Yeah, so my name is Kevin. I'm 4B EC at Waterloo. So over my 6 co-ops, I've done 2 in website development, my first and second one. I did 2 in backend engineering, startup in California. That was my 3rd and 4th. My 5th one, I did more of like a data engineering type role for a startup in South Korea. And for my last one, I just finished it in December. I was at Coursera, also doing back-end infra type work. Yeah, I'm just glad to be almost done school and here to help out you guys with any questions you might have.
Yep, so I'm Tim. I'm quote unquote your average computer science student. And that's about it that you need to know from me.
Cool. I'm Clemmy, 4B software engineering student. I also have done 6 co-op terms. My first one was as an automation engineer at a small company in Toronto. Then I did 3 product engineering positions, one at 10,000 Coffees, one at Doterra, and one at ZenReach, before finally also becoming a data engineer at MimiBox, a beauty company in Korea with Kevin. And then after that, I got an internship on the React team at Facebook, doing work on React on the core team.
Nice. So very hesitantly, Julie, you want to tell about yourself? The only girl in this group.
Hi, I'm Julie. This one I worked at Square as an infrastructure engineer, and then previously I worked at NVIDIA and a startup called Game Time in Israel. Yeah.
Awesome. So before we get into the tips and tricks of how to get internship in tech or in Silicon Valley or anywhere around the world, let's just kind of talk about how you got. I want to talk about how everyone got started in the field. So someone like at home that's just getting into it or finding trouble actually landing those like Facebook like jobs or Google like jobs, like maybe they kind of give them a kind of a comparison to themselves and kind of maybe see how the roadmap for them looks like. We're not saying that every road's the same. Like everyone kind of takes their special path, their unique path. But maybe you guys could take a little inspiration on how everyone here went about it. So so Kevin, how'd you get started? Like how'd you get into tech?
How did I get into tech? Let's see. I've always liked science, like chemistry and physics. But then when I came into university, everybody here was like really into programming.
True.
And I didn't have that background from high school. So I felt like I was really far behind everybody else. So like on the weekends and in my free time, I like just try and catch up by doing online courses and stuff. Like I went to, it was called Code Academy. It was like pretty small, but it was like a 12-step guide on how to create like an HTML web page that's got like hello world and what your name was and stuff like that. And I don't know, it just like after doing that, it just clicked. It just felt like a lot of fun.
Okay, Tim. So Tim actually took a lot of. We always say he's more of the org government kind of guy in the beginning. Things probably changed because he actually worked for a few startups or more recently. So Tim, how'd you get into it?
Yeah, so I was always kind of exposed to technology. So my dad was like a software designer for 30 years up till he retired recently. And yeah, basically I also had like a lot of interest in tinkering with technology, like computers, like when USBs came out, all that is like mind blowing for me. So then, yeah, it basically just those two things added to fuel to the fire, and then I pretty much started like taking classes in high school. It was Java. At
How
the
old
time.
were you? When computers were coming out and USBs. This is like,
at the
like
time?
decades ago.
No, yeah, it was like grade 5, like grade 4. Like I had a really cool elementary teacher, and he was like really into like AV. So we would actually, for projects, we'd record like home videos, I guess, like of books. And then, yeah, like we'd get into all like Windows Movie Maker at the time and make our own videos. Yeah, so like I was pretty lucky to be like exposed to all this stuff.
Yeah.
And
That was like the drag and drop transitions, right?
Yes,
It was like
drag and
the,
drop.
like, sprinkles and stuff.
Yeah, and then like FireWire was like the legit thing to use to transfer. It was no USB at then. That was too slow. But yeah, no, and then so I was pretty much just exposed to it, and then I like continued that onto like university, and then yeah, now I'm here. So still loving it.
Were you around for floppy disks?
Yeah.
Was that a thing?
I think we were.
Yeah.
I think we were pretty around for floppy disks.
Yeah,
Oh.
and floppy disk, and then CDs came out, and then there's like the rewritable
Yeah,
CDs, and I was like, oh man, this is better than a floppy.
Yeah, basically yeah.
And then USB, and I was like 2 gigabytes on the stick. I was like amazing. And then yeah,
You're gonna be watching this video in like 5 years, like 10 years, like 2 gigabytes of USB. That's
no, that was
It's like this.
That was the dream though.
it was the dream.
Usually just 1 gigabytes.
And then I forgot it in like
Yeah.
the laundry, and then I ended up dying because it went through the wash.
Oh, yeah.
Those are bad times. But yeah, no, that's pretty much.
That's a good. That's the time that how technology has changed. How about so Clement, how'd you get in?
Well, this is a very contrary to Tim's story. They say that you want what you can't get, and that was kind of me as a child. You know, I didn't have internet until I was in grade 6.
No way.
I didn't.
That was the same for me.
No. Then what did you use?
Like not
Seriously?
internet. I had like a pen. What was it even called? Pentium 2.
Oh, okay.
That was a super old one. Couldn't run anything on it. No internet also.
so.
I didn't even have my first phone until university actually.
No.
Okay, that's pretty.
That's pretty bad. Yeah.
Wait, when was your phone's first one?
What?
I was in grade 9 when I got my first phone. A Sony Ericsson.
Hey.
I had the Motorola one in grade 9.
Yeah, so I really cherish the time I spent around technology. Like, so for example, when I went to the public library and I got to use their 15-minute internet sessions, or I went over to my friend's place and then they showed me, oh, well, you can emulate Game Boy Advance games on like this GBA emulator. And they're not even in tech. They're just like showing me these things, and I was pretty fascinated by it. And so like fast forward into like high school life, I took some of the CS courses, like whatever was possible, so I get more into it. Actually, like I even like as a child, like I had this one friend who I was pretty close to. Actually, it was a family friend, and I often went over to his house for a sleepover. And like, he would show me things like Math Circus, Dreamweaver. He knew a little bit of JavaScript himself, and like just seeing him like be able to like just type some piece of code onto like a notepad file and then run something and be like, hey, look, I can make this say your name, say hi to you. And I was like, so that was like basically my entrance into computer science. I started taking some more courses in high school, and it turns out that I was pretty good at it. Top of my class for computer science.
Okay.
So I thought I was a big shot, and then like when deciding on which university to go to, I was like pretty much like, I'll go to Waterloo, but I didn't know which program to be in, software engineering or computer science. Well, I was studying for computer science, but one of my best friends, who was also a very smart guy, convinced me to take software engineering with him so we can be classmates. And I guess somehow I'm here. But like
Did you say settling for computer science?
I was going to be happy.
Because like computer
I
science,
was going to be happy.
and science, software engineering, even though
Julie, so what got you started? How did you get in tech? Because it's also like, you know, it's a little harder. Because she had a very unique upbringing as well. Because you like did most of your high school in Japan, right?
It was at this moment Jackson knew. He fucked up.
Like,
no.
okay.
Cut that out.
Okay, she was raised in Japan, and then she came here for high school.
I'm so done with you. Like.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay. Alright, continue.
We'll be right
So
back.
how'd you get into it? So forget that. How'd you get into it?
So for me, it was really interesting. So my grade 10 elective, I wanted to take music, but then the course was full. So then I went to the guidance and be like, hey, what else can I take? And they're like, here's like your courses, computer science, but it's like advanced version, like for the grade 10. And I was like, do you want to give it a shot? And I'm like, sure.
So Kevin, so from your your first co-op job, like internship, co-op and internship is the same thing. If you guys are wondering, like government job to like a startup to like another startup, and now and to like obviously like 4 to 5, 6 co-ops. Now going into like full time, right, into like a big tech company, a well-known one. Google, then like how would you suggest, like what are the top 3 things that you suggest, like if you were to tell yourself in first year when you're applying to internships, like the kind of skills that they should focus on, or like kind of tips they should be mindful of to kind of make them stand out, because I think a lot of people in first year or trying to get internships, like they want to stand out but they don't know how.
Yeah. So this is talking more towards like the software development route. One, there's a book called Cracking the Coding Interview. You should buy that and like memorize it.
Oh, okay.
2, do a lot of side projects. Like every time there's a hackathon, sign up for it. And just try your best to make something that works. Something that you're passionate about, because like once you put this on your resume, your employers are gonna ask you about it. You put the GitHub link on your resume, employers are gonna look at it. I've had interviews where employers, like, they asked for a link to my GitHub repo, and they picked a project at random, and they asked me to run through the code with them, like live on an interview.
Wow. What company was this for? Do you know?
So Shopify.
Shopify.
Yeah. Yeah, they were really into like what sort of stuff you work on the side, because it shows character, right? It shows you're not just an academic junkie that does assignments when you're asked to do it. You actually have a passion for building technology and software outside of school. And those are the people that end up becoming the most experienced programmers. So 1 is cracking the coding interview, 2 is hackathons and side projects, and 3 is just shut up and listen. Like, you just gotta listen to upper years, and because they've been through exactly what you've been through. It doesn't matter like if you think your background is special, or you just don't have the same upbringing as other people. No, you're going through the exact same system as everybody else ahead of you has, and everybody after you will have. This is what this video is about. You just listen to more experienced engineers on the job and developers. Always ask yourself like why, when people tell you stuff, like why is it built this way? Why is it done this way instead of that way? Just don't be scared to ask questions and learn, because that's what the internship program is about. Like it's just a 4-month trial period. You don't have to worry about getting fired. You don't have to worry about.
You might get fired though.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter, because
Just be always be curious.
Yeah, exactly. Just be curious.
Yeah, they won't fire you for being curious.
Yeah.
They won't fire you for asking too many questions.
I think that's important if
You
you're
might get
trying-
annoyed though.
But that's okay.
Yeah, that's
it's
fine.
an internship, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're gone by that, so like.
Yeah.
Like especially like during the hiring process, they want to know that you're like they don't expect you to know everything. Like people like when they hire interns, they don't expect you to know everything, but they want you to be curious. They want to see like potential, right?
Mhm.
Like potential is key. Kind of just going through because I think all of us, like I'm going down the PM route. I think one of the most beneficial things for me that helped me was when we started doing hackathons together. Like we, Kevin and Clement, we actually did a lot of hackathons together, and Kevin is the god of hackathon. I'll his social media will be below so you guys can see how every hackathon he goes to, he always wins something.
This is back when we just had some crazy ideas
Yeah.
and just wanted to have some fun.
Yeah, no, I think that's the most important thing, right? Like like a lot of times people are like, how I can't get started because no one's gonna hire me, right? Then like then if you do hackathons, kind of do your side projects, you kind of build your own opportunities, build your own projects, and then you kind of like quote unquote fluff your resume, right? But it's actually with like cool projects. So if no one's gonna take you on, then you work on yourself, right? Then you work on yourself, do hackathons, do side projects, and that's a huge tips that like when I realized that, like I capitalized on that, and I think that's how I kind of broke through my first like Silicon Valley internship was because I had a lot of hackathon experience on projects, and they kept asking me about that didn't ask me about my previous internship experience. I remember they focused largely on my hackathon projects. So you kind of like so they know like how you can start something. You can start from ground zero and build it, conceptualize it, and like run it, right? Even if it doesn't work, like they want to know your thought process and your kind of ambitions, which is pretty cool. Yeah. So Tim, like what are your kind of tips and tricks of like if you were to tell yourself or someone in first year that's kind of like trying to get an internship, like what would your tips be?
Yeah, so I think the main point is really find a passion. So I'm gonna kind of like bring a different perspective in. So I think for Kevin, like you seem to be pretty good at self-motivating. So I'm kind of gonna go back a bit. So I feel like I'm a person who it's harder to self-motivate. So I usually am motivated by other like external factors.
Like alcohol.
Yes, like alcohol.
Money.
Balmer's Peak is real. No, I'm kidding. Anyways, but yeah, no. So I'd say like I think I had like even though I was like exposed to technology so early and programming really early, like I feel like my growth was a lot slower than most, like especially here, because I couldn't find the passion that was as strong as everyone else here. So I feel like eventually, like around third year, like you could see like the difference between our growths, like really built a difference. And like it came to a point where I felt like I was behind. Even though I had an early start, I felt like I ended up behind now. So, but then once I started like everyone said, doing hackathons, and like we even tried our own startup here. Once I got more exposed into like trying to do stuff from scratch, like building my own like projects from like without any help and stuff, that's when I really felt more confident. My growth like really like spiked at that point. And I was more confident like applying to jobs and stuff because I kind of knew like the thought process, like design, stuff like that, like what kind of thoughts in the decision process is being made. And that exposure is what really made me more like a better programmer, really.
That's just experience, right?
Yeah, it's literally just experience.
There is a trial and error experience.
Exactly. And I think like it's actually a huge difference between just like I'll just say like the school courses, they won't give you enough to like be able to be a good developer. It's not enough. You need to add more like your own personal experience to it. And also like even with co-op, with like working in the real world, I feel like that itself is still not enough because unless you're really lucky and you get a position where they really like kind of walk you into like doing stuff on your own, it's mostly just like, oh, can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? And you don't really like expose yourself to the questions that you need to be asking yourself in order to become like an independent developer. So yeah, so basically the thing that made me grow the most was being able to start doing things on my own, in terms of like writing code from scratch and doing like full out projects and the whole design and stuff like that.
And how hard was that first step for you? Because like I'm sure a lot of people watching this are like scared to like stick their neck out and like go down that route because like they're scared of failure or they don't have like they're not prioritizing it. They have other things going on. So
they're comfortable like
they're not comfortable with that exposure to that hackathons or stuff like that. So how did you get out there?
Yeah, so like if I were to recommend something, I'd say take your first step. But I'll say for me, I actually couldn't really do that myself. So if you feel like you're similar in that position, what you need to find is people like these guys right here. So these guys right here were the ones who were able to get me to make that first step because they made it like doing stuff from scratch, they made it enjoyable. And like it gave me the passion I needed to take that first step, to start like actually putting myself in that discomfort of like trying to figure things, like recognizing my weaknesses in order to, you know, start actually making stuff for real. Like
surround yourself.
Yeah. So if you feel like you can't take that first step on your own, then try to like meet people who can help you like push you through that door, because like you need to really get through there in order to get all these opportunities now. If you don't do that, then you're probably going to be stuck like shutting yourself down, getting like staying in like I don't know, like I wouldn't say government's like a bad thing, but I mean being complacent, be like just settling. Like yeah, you'll get stuck in that mindset, and then you won't find yourself going maybe as far as you want to go. So yeah, I think that's the main point, that for people who can't like self-motivate very well, you guys should do that.
Surround yourself with people who like you can
How do you
learn
find
from.
that person though?
How do you find that person?
They're found them again.
Yeah. So this is Waterloo specific. Badminton club. But no, like I feel like yeah, just find social groups like a sports, maybe like something you're somewhat passionate or think you can get passionate into that's not coding related, and then you might find enough people that are actually in your field, and then you can start getting connected that way. But yeah, so if it's Waterloo, then it's just badminton. But for all you other schools, yeah, just
That's not true. We have a good StarCraft club, League of Legends club.
Okay, I don't have experience.
I think kind of taking a bit of elaborating a bit on Tim's point is that like if you surround yourself with people, like don't just surround yourself with people who you think are really smart, right? Like you think are smarter than you. Like surround yourself with people who like something about them that inspires you, or something like really like kind of motivates you. Because that's how I think that's how for me like personally that's how I think I grew. It's like I met people and I'm like, yo, these guys are so cool. Like these guys. They're so experienced in this realm. They inspire me to be better, right? And then you try to surround yourself with it, because there's a saying where like you're the average of your 6 friends, right? Your closest friends. So like if you want to be better, if you want to like grow, then surround yourself with people who can that could help you grow, and like you could bring something to the table as well, right? Like compete with their strengths and weaknesses, and kind of like help each other kind of grow. I think. If you need that motivation, which everyone at some point in life will need that.
Yeah.
And I think that's.
So what do you bring to the table, Danny?
Good looks and funny and fat jokes. and Kevin brings assholeness.
Oh yeah, every group needs that.
I remember
thought that was you. You brought
Okay, I thought I was saying that now.
Actually, there was a hackathon that me, Danny, and our friend Jason went to, Angel Hacks. This is a hackathon where Jason and I hacked throughout the entire night. And for some reason, Jason kept punching me and getting mad at me. And I asked him, why are you getting mad at me? And Jason said, because you keep farting. And I was like, wait, I'm not even farting though. And we turn around, Danny's lying down behind us and snoring, but they sound like farts for some reason. So he starts punching me and he stopped farting.
Keep in mind, okay, that hackathon was in Sunnyvale, in California.
Angel Hack Silicon Valley.
Yeah, and we won $3,000 in there. We won the biggest API. Look, so that snoring, that farting snoring, won us a lot of money.
You're saying you could have won more money if you didn't fall asleep.
I'm saying that we wouldn't have won any money if I didn't fall asleep. Because every time I was awake, I would make Jason do more work. so I had to pace myself. Okay.
You're so thoughtful.
I try. So Clement. So what would you suggest? Because being I would say that everyone here is my best friend. Clement is also kind of grew together. So me witnessing how Clement grew from first year to now, it's crazy. What would you what kind of tips and tricks would you say for a person that was starting like us first year, or someone wants to get an internship, or maybe potentially go into the Bay Area, or kind of get into tech as a software engineer or as whatever.
Well, thank you for the great intro, Danny. So starting as a first year, you probably don't have a lot of experience under your belt. At least that was the case for me. And so in order to really get that first foot in the door, I'll say play the numbers game. Use every single application you can on job applications, whatever the system is. Just send out your resumes everywhere. The reason for this is, even if you start getting interviews, it's not always a guarantee that the interview will go well. Sometimes the interviewer will be on a bad day, sometimes you'll be on a bad day, sometimes they'll ask unreasonable questions. The more interviews you do, the higher chance you have of securing like a job offer. Like think about it as like a novice throwing darts at a darts board. If you give them 1,000 darts, some of them are bound to hit bullseyes, right?
Are you sure?
Or just land.
Just land on the board. Some of them are bound to land on the board. And that's basically the analogy I'm gonna make, like for getting your first job.
Yeah.
Like obviously, read crack and coding interview. I personally didn't do it.
Same.
True.
But
Just me? Maybe I really needed the help. Maybe I'm just that
But-
bad.
It worked for you though. So
But
you can't complain.
But there are things you want to focus in terms of like interviews. They'll generally ask you things related to data structures, so like your like arrays, hash maps. You want to know your traversal algorithms like BFS, DFS. Like those are like really common questions that you'll get in the interview. But like you don't need to go through cracking the coding interview in order to be proficient at these kind of problems. And then like yeah, and then after you get the co-op job, what you want to do at your internships is be a sponge, absorb all the knowledge you can, and like always like just talk, communicate with other people. I've like seen too many times that other students or like I've heard from like intern managers or whatnot. They've had interns in the past who kind of just hole up like for the entire like 4 months and they don't interact that much.
Oh, okay.
She'll talk about it in the next one.
Oh yeah.
They don't talk to anyone around them, and in the end, they don't get too much out of it. Like the
I
value.
got some of it.
Well,
Okay, but anyways, but
Whoa,
yeah, I didn't
wait,
have
wait,
it
wait.
for once.
Before we move on, I would just want to bring it back to the darts thing. So I think that's number one mistake that first years make is being like declining yourself. So when you're applying for jobs and you're like, they probably won't pick me, don't do that. Like it's not your responsibility to decline yourself. You should make like all the HR people at those companies do it for you. If that's So really that's like the biggest problem that first years have. It's just like they put themselves down and they're like, I don't have a chance here. But like you'll actually be surprised about people who actually like succeed in getting a job. Like there's people who I may have thought were they could like it's like you can imagine them working at Google. But then no, they get the internship and you're like, whoa, how? And it's because they didn't decline themselves. They applied, they still applied. So you should do that. If anything, try to get the feeling that like declining yourself is worse than someone else declining you.
Yeah.
Because that's like, it should actually be like that.
Like when you're at the bottom, the only place to go is up. Right?
Yeah, like you shouldn't hate yourself. You shouldn't like call yourself bad. Like you should make like other people put in their opinion, and then you can just take that objectively.
I think that applies to anything in life, right?
Yeah,
not
pretty
just,
much,
not just for applying to jobs, but like sports or asking that girl out or just it should be a life philosophy you gotta have. If you want to move up.
be confident. Like also like on the point of like on that note, when you're in the interview, remember that it's a two-way street. Like have a conversation. The interviewers aren't generally there to just intimidate you and scare you off into not getting a job. They're like generally actually looking for someone who can fulfill a role in the company, like add value to the company.
Yeah.
And do it like they want to help you succeed. They want to find that interviewee that will be the right candidate for them. Like that will like help them grow. So just know that it's a two-way street and like there's a reason that they're trying to hire.
Yeah, and the company itself is also a candidate for yourself.
Yeah.
So you should see if that company will actually help you grow, and if they don't they make sure that they don't just slave drive you, and then you learn nothing. All you do is grind for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's adding to the two-way.
Yeah, and a little bit more tangible advice, I think, kind of open, that was kind of a big eye-opener for me as well, is make the recruiter's job, the interviewer, when they're looking over your resume, make their job easier. So if let's say the simple aspect of making a resume, if your resume is ugly, which I think a lot of people's resumes are super ugly, you have to be you have to be really, really smart for them to actually take a look at your ugly resume. But let's say you're competing for a job and maybe make it a little design it a little better, right? Go on templates, right? I think templates, there's a lot of templates out there that the resume templates are actually visually appealing. So because recruiters are humans as well, right? And they most humans like visually appealing stuff. So if you make it look a little nicer, you make it look a little neater, you kind of like highlight where your strengths, like where you worked, or like even in projects, like your achievements, like make it look nice. So when they glance at it, they don't because they glance at probably thousands of resumes a day, right? So like make sure that pops out. Because recruiters, like Clement said, and like Tim said, it's like they're looking, like their job is to find somebody, like to hire somebody, right? Their job is not to deny somebody. So if you make their job easier, hey, chances increase for you, right?
Yeah, we could talk about resumes, for days and days and days. That's another video. If you guys want to hear more about that, subscribe and leave a comment below, and we'll make an entire video just on resumes and the whole job application process from 5 people who've done 4 years of it.
Alright. Anyway,
my resume template is actually on GitHub, by the way, open source.
Yeah.
So
Clement will link it. I'll leave the link.
we'll link below.
Anything else?
But yeah, so on the line of like at your first job, just remember, be a sponge, learn as much as you can. For some reason in tech, people are a lot more casual, so just overall, have fun, learn what you can, build meaningful connections. Like maybe they'll refer you to other places in the future. They will build paths of opportunities for you.
Well, make sure you build bridges.
Don't burn bridges.
Build bridges, don't burn bridges. Be human. I think be human. Because the recruiters are human too.
Yeah.
Okay, Julie, how about you? Like, what are your top things and top 3 skills and kind of tips that kind of helped you get into it? Because also seeing you grow is.
And also the part about the internship where you hold up.
Oh, so like.
Oh yeah.
Wait, like what?
So like.
Yeah. Actually, first talk about that first. Yeah.
First, talk about that.
Talk about like how you hold
the 4 months where you didn't communicate that well with your team.
Oh, I think that was like my first 3 co-ops were all like that.
Oh, okay. Well, talk about that.
And then, because like I was like always like scared to ask questions because I was like, oh, I'm the stupidest one. Like I know in theory it's like don't hesitate to do it or don't do it. Don't it's fine, but like it's really really hard for me at least until like you see something. So like I guess like it's not like an advice, but I think it's just like take your time. You'll get there. It takes time, and then like you'll be there. Don't rush.
Nice.
Yeah.
So to backtrack. Like after like obviously knowing that what you know now, because there's a kind of a feeling. What do they call it? Like when you feel like an outsider, kind of, and like you don't belong here.
Isolated.
Imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I think everyone kind of has, like a lot of people have this kind of like imposter syndrome, and sometimes I know for me, like I just constantly like told myself like you're here to learn, like you gotta keep pushing yourself, right?
I had a ton of imposter syndrome because I actually majored in electrical engineering. So all my courses were about circuits and hardware and Fourier transform, and you don't know what that is, but it's all the stuff about like electromagnetic waves. Nothing about it was software, but I was going on these like software co-ops and internships, right? I didn't have these fundamentals in BFS, DFS, graph, tree traversal, data structures, and queues and stacks and stuff like that, So that's why I had to like read Cracking the Coding route and catch up on my own time. So I would lose that imposter syndrome. Like I was always scared of people calling me out for being like a hardware guy when honestly I was doing software. So yeah.
Like constantly just
know
your weaknesses and keep
Yeah. Always be self-aware.
Self-aware, yeah.
Self-aware of what your strengths and weaknesses are. But try not to be as anxious or scared because you're still young. Everybody knows you're young. You don't have to be like the child genius, like programming prodigy, and stuff like that. Nobody expects that. Right? And I feel like that's an unrealistic expectation of people at Waterloo. It's like we're all just like child prodigies born coding, like we coded our way out of the womb or something like that. That's not true. Most of us are just started programming like first year, like for real. So yeah, like don't be scared of imposter syndrome. Just keep asking questions, and then eventually you'll make it.
does. Yeah.
I think the thing is for like those first years to hear like a lot of advice, but then it's hard to like for them to really digest or like make it become true. Like I know this is good in theory. I know this is what I'm supposed to do. But I think there's like a big gap between advice and like
Action.
Yeah, I think like giving advice is always easy, right? It's like when your friend who's like heartbroken or like whatever, and you just get over it, right? Because because you're objective, right? Like you're like, hey, like I'm like, because I'm not in that situation, so it's easy from outside looking from outside in, right? But at the same time, I think like the purpose of kind of like talking about impostership is kind of putting that subject, like the idea that hey, like you're not the only one feeling it, right? So we're not like yes, we're giving advice here, and yes, like we try to give advice to other people. Like when people give advice to each other, like, hey, like this is like what you should do and stuff like that. But I think the most important thing is not the advice part, but it's like that kind of like camaraderie, like your also like comparison, like hey, like we were also in the same situation. So we kind of know what you feel, rather than like giving your advice. It's like, hey, like yo, like we're on the same, like the problems you're facing now was the problems I faced, and now like and I overcame it, and or like in any way like I've improved, like I've kind of progressed that way, like progressed better, improved, and I think like for them to kind of see that like oh okay, I can't get an internship right now, like it's so hard, right? No one's hiring me, but like know that everyone, like all of us kind of had that time where like we couldn't get in, but then now it's like now we're here. It's like where internships are relatively easy, or getting full-time jobs, or like interviews are not like that far-reaching thing anymore. That that it becomes like more relatable, right? And that gives you more hope. I think hope is a big key in any industry.
just keep moving forward.
So this is my perspective. So like for me, if I were to talk to my first year self, I would like try to kick myself into like a situation where I am more like self-aware, like more objectively see my position among like my peers and stuff. Because I think at the time I probably had a higher sense of pride and ego. So like maintaining that pride and ego ended up like holding me back. So that's like when I was like scared to like apply everywhere. I wanted to get like high success rates and stuff. Like I was risk averse. So if I wanted to like improve myself and like go back in time and then try to make that change happen, I would have like kicked myself into a situation, because I feel like no matter what, I wouldn't be able to do it myself. So I want to find myself into a situation where I end up like chiseling that ego and pride, such that I can finally like separate myself and then see myself in the big picture objectively, and then make better like decisions and stuff based on that.
I think like for like what Julie was kind of touching upon was kind of in that situation, it's like where yes, it's like that having a vision of like where you want to be and like stuff is good, and I think it's in long term it's actually like critical, because like where you get burned out really easy, especially in tech. Like yeah, I know everyone's probably watching this video is like trying to look for an internship and try and get the foot in the door, but
eventually, let's say a few years down the line, like people generally get burnt out. Like a lot of people get burnt out, right? Like so, vision is kind of crucial. But when you're just starting out, having a vision is good, but it's not like I think essential. Like for example, like what Julie said, step by step. I think what she was kind of touching upon. Like correct me if I'm wrong, Julie. Is kind of like just get started, right? Like you know the steps in front of you. Just like take those steps.
Because like for me, it was really hard for me to imagine like something more than like graduating university when I was first year. Like my goal was always like I'll graduate university. So like at that point, I only can like do school, apply for jobs, or like maybe social, but like I'm anti-social, but like so like those are the stuff I can do. Within these stuff, like what can I do now so like I can get a like it's like look at what's in front, what's the option in front of you, and just choose this one you think is.
Okay. Yeah. Like
so let's say like you're trying to get from like point A to point B, right? Like so like you can you can like stay still and think about what path you can take to get there, which is a straight line by the way. But like,
It's not a straight line.
but you can think about which path you're gonna get there, or you kind of like you can start kind of walking in the general direction and correct it as you go along.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's A-star. You're talking about A-star, right?
I am.
That's for those of you who don't know, A-star is the algorithm that Google Maps uses to determine the shortest path between 2 points.
But yeah, okay. So just to end things off, this video is quite long.
Nice documentary.
Yeah, it's gonna be one of those long videos. So if you're like listening to this when you're like taking a shit or like listen to this like on like when maybe when you're driving and or when you're kind of just trying to like study and you, maybe like this could be like a little podcast going on. But I think just to end, now let's just like short and simple, like 1 to 3 things that you that you would suggest to the viewers, like the people who are looking to get into the field of internships. You don't have to raise your hand. Looking to get into the field, like actionable items, not something like kind of like philosophy, but like kind of like actionable items that they could do right now to increase their chances of getting a good internship or getting their foot in the door of tech.
Let's keep it short and sweet.
Short and sweet. Go.
So ask all your friends and families or relatives or anyone you know who's working in the software industry, ask them for referrals. Best way, because usually my friends are like, oh, my dad got me into this company. That. Second, ask any upper years friends, professionals to look at your resume. If you get their interview, just practice with your friend. Also, one thing I forgot to say is one of my interviewers told me that it's like the teacher-student thing, where if you become a teacher, you learn more. So like if you try to become an interviewer, like you practice becoming an interviewer to your friend, you learn, like you see your friend how to do perform an interview, and you become a better interviewee too. So like that's like a unique way to practice too. But yeah, done.
Cody?
Learn your data structures, learn your traversal algorithms,
DFS
DFS, BFS, array.
and A-star.
You don't need to know A-star.
Okay.
2, go to hackathons. And 3, spend some time on your resume. Just really show it around, like give it to other people, ask some people for feedback, look at some good examples online, look at some, like software, like I feel like especially software resumes and especially computer science resumes, these ones, like the trend of them change like every so often. So just kind of see what's hot and new, and it also includes a lot of keywords in your resume.
In bold, yeah.
Yeah, because like a lot of companies will go through automatic resume filters, and if you miss certain keywords in your resume, then you'll just be filtered out.
Yeah, so I feel like we're gonna end up like overlapping a lot of points, but one for me is pretty much get experience. So if it's like Julie, take your slow steps, or if it's like me, just throw yourself into a situation where you expose yourself. 2, I would say, is find your passion. I'd say or a motivation basically. So find that thing that interests you, or find the friends that motivate you in order to do those projects and things that you need to do. And 3, I'd just say, yeah, just just be yourself, have fun. Don't try to be unrealistic. Don't try to see yourself as that Superman, or Superwoman. It's 2018. Just yeah, you gotta. In the end, you have to be realistic with yourself. You might have all your friends going to Silicon Valley and being getting that huge pay and stuff, but then you yourself, you're that family man, and you prefer a more calm life. You have to be able to accept that, So just find who you actually want to be.
Internally.
Yeah, internally.
Very true.
Yeah, I think what everybody said is definitely really helpful. I'm just gonna share some stuff that I did to help me along this path. So to learn all these data structures and algorithms, I actually used a lot of online resources. So I actually used LeetCode and HackerRank. They're two great websites for learning about data structures and algorithms. And I just did them extensively. Whenever I have free time, I'll like jump on, and at first it's like really hard to get into, but slowly you build a habit out of it, and then it becomes easier and easier. Two, definitely try and make your resume unique, right? It's like never follow like the school's template or Sika's template about making a resume, because every other student at the University of Waterloo is going to be following that. So your resume is not going to stand out. It's just going to pass through, right? So try and make it, like add some color or some artistic style, some creativity, some of your own personal flair to it. Or as Danny said earlier, look for a template online and base it off of that, So these two things you could do like right now. If you're watching this video, hit pause, open up a browser, and
finish watching this video
LeetCode.
And subscribe.
Type in LeetCode.com and try a question or two, and then look for a resume template online. These are two really simple 5-minute things you can do right now, and it'll help you huge in the long run.
Yes, just kind of like I have a few points, but like I think the points a few of us already touched upon was like make your resume visually appealing. And like we touched on before, it's like if your resume is ugly, like even if you're really good, like they're not gonna want to read it. Thus, you're not gonna get like an interview or you're putting for it at all. But other than that, I think what helps a lot, both in the software engineering internships and like PM internships, is like be number driven. Like a lot of people just writes like what they did, what their company did on the resume. But like show results, right? Like I did this, I increased efficiency like by 30%, or like show that like you're results driven. Especially in internships, like they want to know that when you once you get in, that you'll be driven in terms of like result oriented as well. So put metrics in, put numbers in, so they know what's going. So they know that like you have kind of achievements in a sense, right? Also, like if you're going down the PM route, if you're not going down the software engineering route, you want to go down the PM route. There's also cracking the PM interview. So take a look at that. There's a PDF file. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to share it, but subscribe. I'll let you know. Other than also, like, I know we talked about hackathon projects, and I'm a huge advocate for hackathon projects because I think that is one of the big factors that kind of rocketed me into the through the door, is to do projects, right? Like, don't just, if you do a hackathon project and you really like it, don't just like kill it. Maybe like do something with it, right? Ship it out. Maybe get touch up on it and then maybe ship it onto the Google Play Store. Like what me and Kevin did. I ship. Sometimes I make like really random apps, and I just ship it out, and like there's like 100, 300, 500K downloads. And then that's something that you can talk during interviews, right? Mm-hmm. Like it'd be something they see numbers, and they'll be pretty the recruiters themselves would be pretty impressed. Another thing is like network, right? Like oftentimes like people don't, like, especially like if you're a little bit more like to yourself and you don't like kind of to talk to a lot of people, like put yourself out of the comfort zone, like get yourself into those events, network a bit, go to like recruiting events, talk to them and kind of get like an insight. Maybe you get an interview on the spot, because I know a lot of people actually got like get those.
We can do a whole video about.
Yeah, we can do a whole video. Again, subscribe, let us know, and then we'll do a whole video about that. Another thing is like I think.
That's already.
Okay, one more. This is
By the way, it's 1 a.m. right now.
Okay, last thing. I look at it like you as ourselves, especially in the beginning stages for now. We are our own startups. Like you yourself is a startup, so you want to know your strengths and weaknesses very well. MVP yourself, right? If you're not good at one thing, and work on it, right? But like most importantly, also know your strengths really well, so you know how to sell yourself, right? When you go for an internship, especially your first one or your first few, know what you're good at and put your best foot forward. And then also being very self-aware that like what you're not good at, right? So you can improve on that, right? And so it's like there's this huge fine line between knowing your strengths, knowing your passions, and kind of pushing that and merging that into your career. So knowing your strengths and weaknesses is huge. MVPing yourself, like making sure that you don't go broad is good. Touching on a lot of projects is good in a sense, but also kind of narrowing and funneling it down to like what you're really good at, make you pop out like during interviews and recruiting process. Like focus on that. Okay, so thank you guys for being part of this video. I know like this video is quite long. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to ask it below, comment below. I'll leave everyone's social media if you guys want, like down below as well. So if you guys want to follow them, that'd be pretty cool. And if there's enough questions, if you're interested in, let us you want to do another video, also let us know below. And then if finals is coming up, but like if we have some time, I think we'll definitely do it. Okay, yeah, and also let us know what companies you want to hear about, because then there's a lot of people here that have worked for like tons of companies.
Thanks everyone.
Alright, see you guys. Alright, that was long.
That was like an hour and a half.
So long.
Holy.